The sales robots have taken over, and they're decimating deals left and right, destroying them right in their tracks. On the AI for Sales podcast, our mission is to empower everyday sellers to embrace AI superpowers to build new bridges and crush quota. Dr. Joel Abon said it best in the AI for Sales book. In sales, time kills deals. In AI for Sales, AI kills time. Join our hosts as we learn from the C-suite of the world's fastest growing companies about how you can leverage AI today to transform your sales revenue engine while being the best version of you.
Hey everybody, Chad Burmeister, and I'm your host of the AI for Sales podcast. And I'm back with a guest today who has been here twice already. And we had scheduling conflicts, technical difficulties. And so I figure third time is a charm. Steve Marcinuk is the general manager from a very, very cool company. In fact, I just was bragging about what this product does on another call right before this one. It's called Intelligent Relations, and it's AI for PR. So Steve, welcome back to the show.
It's a pleasure to be back. I mean, we had such a good conversation the first time and a half. Just figured, let's try it again on tape. So
let's revisit and we'll record this one. So as we asked before, I like to help our audience connect with you by asking the question about what was your passion, what was your thing when you were younger that kind of got you to doing what you're doing today?
Totally. So I was a young entrepreneur. I was the stereotypical kid with a lemonade stand, and when I was 5 years old, hustling lemonade and cookies on the street corner. And then I after that, when I was about 12, I started a small business on my own as well, doing like magic and juggling, like kids entertainment. And that was something that really got me to sink my teeth into entrepreneurship as a young fella. And that just kind of put it in my it gave me a taste for it. It's apparently in my blood. And, from there on, I knew that entrepreneurship was a path I wanted to pursue. And, PR it always made sense to me. Like, how do you get the word out about what you're doing? PR is the way to spread the message, reach more people, amplify your reach. And so when I was, more of an adult, I kind of found a way to make that into my full-time profession on the entrepreneurial side.
Well, I love it what you're doing, because almost every mastermind that I become part of, I was in one called Board of Advisors for a couple of years in Florida. There's 100 people. There's always one or two PR people that are in those types of audiences, right, that serve the rest of the room. And what I found is that there's several traditional PR folks that charge a monthly fee and then use traditional means like a relationship with their certain small group of reporters that they get the word out to. And then they can speed dial those people and say, hey, can we get Chad on Newsmax tomorrow at 10, right? And I have one of those conversations going on right now. And those are valuable resources.
For sure.
But I'm very intrigued what happens when you add AI in the mix as people become familiar with generative AI and seeing the power of this stuff. I really am excited to expose what it is you're doing.
What you're discussing is the traditional way that PR has been done and still continues to be done for the most part in most circumstances. I mean, the legacy PR model is that, you pay $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month to a professional, like you mentioned, who has a Rolodex, like the Rolodex model of PR. And they say, I know these guys, these gals, they're editors. I get cocktails with so-and-so every month or so. And I'd love to put in a good word and, long-term contracts and, not as much transparency in the model as other industries. And for sure, like not poo-pooing that is a good model for some folks. It's a great way, especially if you're doing like crisis communications or you're in a very, very, very specific niche and you want to talk to the go-to guy or gal who's just like the rainmaker in that sector. It has a place, but a lot of the folks that, we're focused on, the people we're working with are like seed funded startups, Series A startups, earlier stage, have something cool going on. As we say, they have a story to tell, but no one's listening to it. No one's hearing it. And so like they're posting on their social media, they have their little mailing list, but earned media, the ability to get other people talking about you has value. And we're trying to help bring that to more companies using the technology we're both familiar with.
Well, and I love it because I just talked to a company who was interested in being on this podcast right before this call, and they are helping with anonymizing people, right? Because cookies are starting to go away, and so there's a certain approach. This company's very well funded, Series B. They've been around for a handful of years, and they have a large percent of the market. But they complained about what we just talked about. Who covers this particular space, right? And that's when I talked to you originally about what your product does. So share with us, what does the platform do? Intelligent Relations. How are you leveraging AI to get these founders in front of the exact right media organizations?
Yeah, totally. So I'll tell you, the quick backstory to where we're at and what the platform does. And basically, we started Intelligent Relations back in 2020, and it started with a conversation with my co-founder and me, and we saw that this generative AI train, like, this is pulling out of the station. It's going to get better and better over the next couple of years. And with my background in PR and his background in other areas of technology, we're like, this PR industry is the perfect application for this kind of technology. So, like, what do you need for good AI? You need data. And in public relations, all the data is public. You want to know what does a journalist care about? Well, you could probably look at their last 15, 20 articles and get a pretty good sense. Traditionally it's this journalist covers tech, or they cover, home and gardens, or whatever it is. There's like a labeling method, and you got, 200 data analyzers going in and tagging manually, and et cetera, et cetera. But AI, with the innovation in data analysis, data storage, et cetera, like, you're able to just suck in all that information. And so what we have built is, we call our platform Preston. It's PR, press, Presto, so it's a platform that essentially analyzes. We now have like 40 million plus articles in the database, getting in millions more a month. And we're just analyzing and vectorizing and just getting a really good, literally 1,500 dimensional view of journalists to understand not just they cover tech, but like all the attributes of their coverage, to understand, what they care about, what they write about. And also we have some recursive learning methods built in. So we're understanding what they reply to. So, you have a pitch, for example. Let's kind of come back to, the sales, where I wanted to connect with you in the first place. Like, tremendous parallels between PR and sales. You have to have a cool story. You have to know who you're pitching to. You have to reach out to them with a pitch, like an offer, something that's of mutual benefit. And in PR, we have to figure out what journalists care about your story. So you write the pitch, we match the right journalists, we help to connect the dots with, helping to draft the pitches, finding out what's interesting about your company. And we're able to do that, at a much faster rate with much
And then you
accuracy.
handle the communication between the company and the media agency or the PR firm.
Yeah. So what the main focus of what we're doing these days, and where we're seeing the most value for the folks we work with, is in this managed service model. Where we have the platform, and we also add an account representative, a PR specialist on the account. So you get the tech, you get a person who's kind of running it for you. We originally did this more of like a DIY, like use the platform yourself, but we just got so much feedback from our best clients that this is great, but I really don't want to hire someone to do this for me. Can you give me one of your folks to help with this? And so we're packaging it together as a managed service. But when we first got started, we were thinking like, the buzzword around AI is going to automate. Like, this will bring automation to XY thing. But human assistance, like helping to streamline things and effectiveness. And it does seem like that's, the culture around this, how this tech is used, is a lot more on helping people do what they do better rather than fully replacing people.
Well, even the logo for this show, right? It originally said artificial intelligence, AI for sales. And I'm going to have to change my background now that we've talked about it. In my next interview, I'm going back to the AI for sales logo on that screen. But we crossed out the word artificial and wrote augmented under it, because that is the learn over the last couple of years. It's great to be able to accelerate a person, but it just doesn't work, at least yet, to replace a person. It's an augmentation, not a replacement.
Yeah, in our world, we're seeing that the humans have to set the standard and make sure that the tech is meeting that standard. And there's always things like, hallucinations, positioning of is the messaging on point, and you gotta, you wouldn't hire a new employee and leave them completely unsupervised to run amok. We're seeing that's kind of the case with the AI we're building as well. Is it's good, but you got to keep it in its lane, and
Yeah,
that's when it
that's right.
performs.
Well, I was on a panel at the University of Houston probably 3 or 4 years ago, and there was an HP guy, an IBM guy, and these were all the top AI players in these organizations. And we had just launched a product that could write an email and personalize the first sentence to the target. Hey, the weather's nice in Ottawa. I hope you're staying cool. Or I see we both went to the same university, and it had 12 or 15 different ones. Where we got in trouble is when the AI read an article and it's the CEO of the company had died. And we
Yep.
congratulated the CMO on that event. Hey, congrats, your CEO's in the news.
Read the great news about your company.
Wow. Like, oops.
Yep.
Right. And so
Yep.
then you've got to train the AI. So human in the loop, in that case, what we discovered is because that's such a sensitive topic. I don't want to just do a personalized email and hit send all. We need to have a person read every single. Now it can take the time spent from 20 minutes down to 20 seconds. That's still a huge, significant gain. But if you try to mass blast your way to personalized emails at scale, you run into the type of hiccups that we ran into in that case.
It's a perfect example. Yeah. On our end, we've had, we're also we're playing around with like introducing the pitch in a way that is personalized to the journalist based on their coverage. And it does a good job, but again, not perfect. And so if you're going to use that feature, check it, make sure it's accurate, and sometimes we'll try to connect disparate concepts. Like, I saw your recent coverage of this healthcare breach. Maybe you'd want to cover this product announcement. And it's like, it does a darn good job of making it sound fluid, but it's like, this isn't, you're forcing together things that don't belong. So not as dramatic as, dead CEOs, but you're like, it's
and the
not
good
quite
news
there.
is you can train the AI over time to get better and better.
Yep.
I remember going to Breckenridge Brewery down the street from my house for my brother's birthday 3 or 4 years ago, and they had just rolled out an AI-powered computer that would deploy all of the barley and the wheat and whatever it is they put in beer. And my nephew asked the smart question, "Well, how's that working for you?" And they were like, "Well, the first batch or two were terrible, but now that it's been in place for the last 30 to 45 days." It's better than what we were doing before without it. That's when things get interesting, is when the quality curve moves up because the human attentiveness to every single situation. There could be a point where you could say, hey, this is 99.5% accurate. A human's 99.2. Let's go ahead and hand this off, and the AI can handle this task.
Yeah, there might be a threshold at which you flip that switch towards full automation. In our industry, it's sensitive, like public relations, you got to be careful. You don't want to be hallucination. In some industries isn't that big of a deal. In ours, it's important. Like sharing information that's not correct, big no in PR. But what you're saying, we're experimenting with different ways, like that recursive learning part of what we're doing. We're tracking responses, positive, negative. This journalist always replies with sponsored stories. And so we're tagging the pitch on a bunch of different dimensions and then analyzing the responses and then using that to better empower our team in the form of like notes and tags on the journalist, and also helping to retrain the models so that like as we interact with these journalists, we're capturing that knowledge so that future outreach, like that education lives in the platform. And previously, good teams were doing this. Like they had a really robust CRM where they had all their notes in an individual client and individual journalist, like likes this, doesn't like this. But if you can do that programmatically at scale, that's where you go from managing, I have this small little pocket of journalists I have relationships with, to I have a really good understanding of tens of thousands of folks based on what they write about, what they care about, and so on. So that's where we're going.
That's cool. If AI doesn't exist, does intelligent relations still exist?
We see our company existing on two pillars: technology and people. That there's ways to do some of the technology we're doing is not strictly AI, but we have AI in just about every aspect of what we're doing, from article analysis to generative AI on the pitch drafting, to idea generation, to mapping journalists. Like, we really did start, our starting point was, what is the entire process from coming up with an idea to getting a positive response to a pitch, and figuring out how we break that down into bite-sized pieces and trying to use the best technology at every single part. I don't think we would exist without a lot of AI.
And if you did, how many more additional headcount do you think you would require?
I mean, I just don't think our company could exist in a price, like, part of our value proposition is that we're bringing to market a solution that's like a quarter less the cost of a traditional firm. So, like, I would say traditional PR, you look at a traditional PR agency, that's the model. We'd have to have a lot more people, charge a lot more money. This was built from the ground up with the intention that the AI would be necessary to do what we do.
75% lower cost with a higher quality component because of the ability to better match the individual company to the person in the media that's covering that company, and a better handoff to that person. So I think of the PR folks that I work with, and they've got a handful of go-to people like we just talked about. And that's great. If you're looking to reach that group of 4 million viewers, awesome. But if you have a niche market, like this company that has the, anonymous way to get around the cookie problem when it comes for marketers, okay, we've got to go after those niche people who have the niche audience. So I think you're definitely in the right area. Where do you think this goes? Someone asked me the question earlier, 12 years from now, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's like 100 years from now. He said, do you think the AI conversation bots will be having the conversations as good as AEs? And at what level will they go? $100,000 deals, 40,000, where's the cut mark? And I was like, I think you'll be surprised. By that point, the AI will be very well trained. Maybe not $100,000 deal, but $25,000 deals all day long, I think. But what do you think? 12 years from now in the PR space, that's
a long time horizon. So I think that broadly, you're going to see, I break it down to two areas of improvement. One would be that the technology itself for the functions we're talking about will continue to improve. So generative text, and what generative text specifically can do, will continue to improve, like to the level you're talking about, where it's entirely human sounding. It can respond to a wider range of scenarios, et cetera, et cetera. We will have dealt with issues of hallucinations and bias and all the stuff that right now are the hot topics for people who want to poo-poo this technology. Those things will be greatly reduced, and it'll be a very enjoyable and almost flawless technology to use on the text generation side. So that's chunk one, is the core technology we're talking about now will improve. And in terms of part two, I would say is that it'll be better integrated into workflows that are enabled to do more things. I think that is probably a lot more of what we're talking about. So right now, you got Bard and you got other tools where you can go and it will essentially clunkily do a search to the internet, bring back new information, feed that information into AI, and then AI will essentially give you a summary of that information. That's a very clunky workflow. And I think we're going to see that AI will break free from this specific silo of it's just doing text generation for this specific thing, but it's like integrated from all sorts of technologies upstream and downstream will be connected. And I think that'll this will probably happen in the next couple of years, more than 12, but like you'll just have a lot more seamless experiences all the way from, inquiries all the way through to outputs, and it'll be a more, a less fragmented experience. That's my guess. And to me, the biggest unknown is the cultural component. We talked about how, going from automation to augmentation is a chunk that we've seen already. And I think what we're already starting to see is that things like AI transparency is going to become well known, like where AI is being used. This content was created with AI. You have AI content detectors. In some ways, it'll be harder to tell, like, is this like a deep fake or real? But I think we're going to have this point where through legislation and counter technology, being aware of where this technology is being used, and we're going to start where I don't know how we're going to react is like, how do people feel about knowing that I'm talking to a chatbot? Like, do we like that? Are we okay with it in these contexts? That's where I'm really curious to watch.
Well, when you're talking about it, I think about a Excel spreadsheet with functions, and not just 5 times 5, but this field times that field, and you can get pretty advanced in those kinds of spreadsheets. Do we really care what's underneath the hood of all the spreadsheet? No, I care about as an executive, I want to see the dashboards and the visuals and the trends, and I don't really need to see all that other stuff. So I think just like you're talking about, we all sound a lot smarter than maybe we actually studied for in this new world because we're powered by technology under the hood. And it could really get to be pretty interesting.
12 years is a tough question.
12 years is a tough question.
Next couple of years are going to be very interesting.
So think about who's impacted the most positively and maybe negatively, right? Because some jobs may be susceptible, like a data analyst or, a certain role. Let's talk specifically about the PR industry. If I'm in role X, what should I be looking at in terms of up-leveling my skills or learning about AI so that I'm not asked to find the door? What should I be looking at if I'm in PR?
Sure. Couple things on the PR side and just like some general principles we're dealing with is that, strategy is still king. Like people who are involved in strategy and relationship management with the clients, those are the folks who are becoming increasingly valuable because their work can be scaled. You come up with a good strategy, it's easier to deploy that. You're able to manage a relationship. Well, now you might have more time to manage more relationships. And so those skill sets and getting really good at those, one person can offer more value to more folks. That's a very good place to be. So investing in those things, human skills and strategy, seems to be really, really solid. I mean, in these folks, in every role in our company, we're encouraging folks to use AI and whatever tools to enhance what they're doing. So they're using even AI tools to help them draft strategic ideas and outlines just to jot the creative juices. But no, like the ability to an AI generated strategic idea versus a well worked through strategy would work in practice miles apart and probably will be for some time. And as you said, like the analysts, like in our team, I'll give you very specific examples that we started this having a larger team of analysts who were doing things like, list building in the beginning of journalists to reach out to and reviewing and things like that. And as our technology got better, we're finding that those folks are not needed to do that specific function. And so what we're doing is we're actively migrating them across towards similar kind of work to train the platform. And their same skills are being leveraged because they're now training technology that's able to serve a larger number of folks. So I'm proud to say we're not, not letting go anybody in this context. We're just upskilling our team, having them focus on working more closely with the technology. And, they're also having a more interesting role because they're working with the latest tech. And that's pretty cool, with us and for future resume items.
I love it. Yeah, that's right. Because this has happened forever. Just like long form math turns into calculators, turns into Excel spreadsheets. We're at the next point of human evolution powered by this kind of technology that to me sort of equals the playing field a little bit, right? If you didn't get a certain degree or you don't, maybe like I have an MBA, that's awesome. I had advantage of a negotiations class and some other things that maybe somebody who did an undergrad doesn't have. But if you're powered by AI, now you can access those thoughts and ideas right from the instructor rather than synthesizing it through me, right? So it's really
Yeah.
a very neat thing that brings the power to people when it's done correctly.
Yeah. Well, I'll say from another perspective, same type of thing. We got 60 folks in 15 countries right now. And in some of the roles, like native English is not required, like graphic designers. We got a couple folks who do graphic design. One's in Ukraine and another one in Colombia, and not native English speakers. But we're able to have through AI, they're using AI to translate and communicate and understand, and we're having richer conversations. They're getting more effective at their job, and they're even in some folks are freelance and have side gigs, like they are able to have richer conversations with their clients. And yeah, so for like non-native English speakers, this is, I think that's one of the on a global scale, this will present more opportunities on a world level, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, let's before we let you go here, I'd love to have you share with us an example, maybe a current customer, maybe how someone would engage with you very specifically, because I think they may be intrigued with, oh, I can spend a quarter of the cost and I can reach out to people who care about my product. If I were to sign up with you for BDR.ai, what would be my process? What would that look like?
Sure. So the aim is accelerated onboarding and start pitching. Like you want to start on a Monday, we'd start pitching by later that week, because we can learn your client, you learn your industry and your company very quickly. So from kind of soup to nuts, onboarding call where we would record and go through a set number of questions where we're capturing your language from you specifically, and in parallel we would be analyzing website and social media on the platform side, and all of those things would go into inputs to the platform. So we're transcribing your language to make sure we understand that and capturing that very well, and looking at your website and all these other things as inputs into training essentially a set of custom models for your company. So we would understand what you do, who you do it for. We'd make sure we understand your spokespeople, et cetera, and your areas of expertise. And so we would basically have as inputs all this info, and then we'd use that to initiate the ideation and the outreach process. So based on that, it would help to generate, here's a bunch, Preston would help to generate a bunch of ideas for initial campaigns. So it could be a combination of things that are trending in the news and your company info. So like takes trending news stories and your company info to generate ideas. So, sales trends to watch in XYZ industry. If you're focused on certain verticals, it'd be, five AI powered sales trends for the healthcare industry, how to prepare for XYZ legislation in sales, so et cetera, et cetera. We'd propose those. We'd make sure, yep, we're aligned. And then we'd use our team would use AI to generate a bunch of pitches for journalists. They would punch it up, add facts, add details, and then the platform recommends here, based on what they've written about, here's 50, 100 journalists that are likely to write about this type of thing. So again, humans in loop, review, select this one, 90% match, this one not so good. And then we begin to reach out.
And do I get a certain number of guaranteed placements per month, or what comes as a result of that outreach?
Yeah, we target between 2 and 3 media requests per month. Sometimes it can actually get significantly higher than that, but our deal is that you're engaging with us to get that target number of opportunities.
And that's print, television, what kinds of media? Could be any and all.
Tell us where to point. Yeah, so we've gotten, this week, I think it's been everything from Bloomberg to New York Times, LA Post, LA Times, lot of top tier, a lot of niche publications. Yeah, podcasts, got TV.
So just for those who are listening to this, because getting covered in the media is amazing. There's PR value of a brand, but there's also leads that actually get driven from this. So because I hadn't been running my podcast for 8 months, my exposure on social media channels was down to basically zero for the last 8 months. And I was focused on some other big projects. Now that I've been relaunching this program, I'm getting LinkedIn, when they fill out the web form, how did you hear about us? LinkedIn, your podcast, this other podcast. I heard you on Ticker Tape News. And so in the web form, I get real actionable leads, not because I think there's a notion that, well, PR is hard to measure and what are the business values. But I think in today's world with the coverage and the social media and all the different ways that it's tracked, I think there's a very rapid ROI on these kinds of programs.
Yeah. So short-term benefits and long-term benefits. Like short-term, we got a client feature to tell a story. They're a data privacy company. They're doing information removal from data brokers. And we got a piece of coverage for them in the Washington Post, and they had their best sales weekend of all time. Many, I can't get a specific number, very impressive weekend based on that specifically. You can track the inbound links, inbound searches from inbound links from that source, and there's a direct correlation. So short term, there's that. And long term, people like PR for a number of reasons. They're going through a fundraising round. They need to increase the credibility of the company as featured in. They can point to executive thought leadership, et cetera, et cetera. That's good. And then also some folks just look at it as an SEO play. You got to get high quality backlinks and third parties validating what you do. Where this isn't explicitly, it's more than an SEO agency, obviously, but digital PR is replacing things like guest posting, et cetera, for high quality backlinks.
Amazing. Well, it's been a fabulous conversation. I knew the third time would be a charm, and it was. Yeah. And thanks to Zoom video here and our platform of choice. But we've been talking with Steve today from Intelligent Relations. It's intelligentrelations.com. If people want to get a hold of you, Steve, what would be the best way to reach out or find you and more about the company?
Yeah, intelligentrelations.com. All my contact information is there. My last name's hard to spell, so I just say hop on over there and connect with me through the website.
Outstanding. Well, thanks everybody for listening to another AI for Sales podcast, and we'll catch you in a few weeks. Peace.
Hey, you made it this far in your AI for Sales journey. Want to augment your sales growth? First, leave us a review and then visit www.scalex.ai to claim your free strategy session today.